The Tondern raid, officially designated Operation F.7, was a British bombing raid mounted by the Royal Navy and Royal Air Force against the Imperial German Navy's airship base at Tønder, Denmark, then a part of Germany. It was the first attack in history made by aircraft flying from a carrier flight deck. On the 19th of July 1918, 7 Sopwith Camels took off from the converted battlecruiser Furious. For the loss of one man, the British destroyed 2 German zeppelins, L-54 and L-60, and a captive balloon. Background: in March 1918, the battlecruiser Furious joined the Grand Fleet at Scapa, flying the flag of the Rear Admiral commanding aircraft RAF Fillmore. Furious had initially been converted for use as an aircraft carrier during her construction, with a flight deck forward of her main superstructure, and during 1917 had been equipped with the Sopwith Camel 2F1, a navalized variant of the Sopwith Camel. These partially replaced the Sopwith 1.5 Strutter. In late 1917 a second flight deck was fitted aft until such need arose. However, she was dispatched on reconnaissance missions off the Heligoland Bight, searching for minefields and looking for evidence of counter-mining by the Germans. An attack on the bases of the Imperial German Navy's Naval Airship Division was allegedly suggested to Rear Admiral Fillmore by his Royal Air Force Staff Officer Lieutenant Colonel Robert Clark Hall and one of his pilots, Squadron Commander Richard Bell Davies, V.C. Clark Hall received Fillmore's approval and the Commander-in-Chief of the Grand Fleet David Beattie's permission. Operation F.6. It was originally planned to use Sopwith 1.5 Strutters in an attack, but these were too valuable for reconnaissance purposes and Sopwith Camels were substituted, whose range limitations meant an attack on the airship base at Tønder. The initial attack on Tønder, named Operation F.6, called for 2 waves of 4 aircraft, each pilot receiving special training. One of the pilots, Major Moore, was posted away before the operation's scheduled date of the 29th of June 1918, by which time it was too late to train a replacement. Training consisted of bombing runs on the airfield at Turnhouse, where the outlines of Tondern's 3 airship sheds were marked out. The pilots were Captains W. D. Jackson, W. F. Dixon, B. A. Smart and T. K. Thine, and Lieutenants N. E. Williams, S. Dawson and W. A. Hewlett. On the 27th of June, Furious put to sea from Rosyth, escorted by the 1st Light Cruiser Squadron and 8 destroyers from the 13th Flotilla. On the 29th of June the ships reached the flying-off point, but with force 6 winds prevailing, flying was deemed impossible and the operation was called off. Operation F.7. The mission was attempted again, renamed Operation F.7, and Furious went to sea at 12:03 on the 17th of July. This time she was escorted by Force B, including a division of the 1st Battle Squadron, the 7th Light Cruiser Squadron and a destroyer screen. HMS Resolution's Y turret guns had been loaded with the special shrapnel shell for use against airships. During the passage the destroyer Valentine investigated a reported submarine contact, but nothing else untoward occurred. At 3:04 in the morning of the 19th of July, Furious was ready to fly off her camels when a thunderstorm struck. Rather than cancel the operation, it was decided to delay it 24 hours and Furious and her destroyer screen fell back on Force B. The combined squadron cruised out of sight off the Danish coast until the morning of the 19th of July, and in worsening weather conditions Furious flew off her camels between 3:13 and 3:21. The first flight consisted of Jackson, Dixon and Williams, the second of Smart, Dawson, Hewlett and Thane. Tønder was forced to turn around with engine trouble before reaching the target and ditched his aircraft before being recovered. The first 3 aircraft arrived over Tondern at 4:35, taking the base by surprise. There were 3 airship sheds, codenamed by the Germans as Tosca, Tobias, and Tony. Tosca, the largest one, was a double shed and housed the airships L-54 and L-60. Tobias contained a captive balloon and Tony was in the process of being dismantled. The first wave of aircraft focused on Tosca and 3 bombs hit the shed and detonated the gas bags of L-54 and L-60, destroying them by fire but not causing them to explode, and destroyed the shed. Another bomb from the first wave hit Tobias' shed and damaged the balloon. The second wave destroyed the captive balloon afire and scored a number of near misses on a wagon loaded with hydrogen cylinders. Despite the loss of the 2 airships, the Germans suffered only 4 men injured. During the attack, ground fire was directed at both waves, but the only damage was an undercarriage wheel shot off a camel from the second wave. Williams, Jackson and Dawson, in the belief that they had insufficient fuel to reach the British squadron offshore, headed for Denmark and landed there. Dixon, Hewlett and Smart flew to sea to find the British ships. Dixon ditched at 5:55 and Smart, having suffered engine trouble, at 6:30. Hewlett was not heard from again and presumed drowned, and it was supposed that he had been forced to ditch prematurely through fuel exhaustion. The British squadron waited for the other pilots until the allotted time period for the Camels' fuel capacity had run out. Then, after 7 o'clock, the ships took cruising formation and made for home. Aftermath. The German Naval Airship Division quickly had the double-hangar Tosca repaired, but Tondern was abandoned as an active base, and ordered to be used only as an emergency landing site. Defenses at the other bases were improved and at Nordholz a swathe of the countryside near the local air base was burned off so as to prevent it being set alight by enemy bombs. The British conducted no other carrier raids during the war, but other raids were being planned. From 1917 onwards, a raid on the German high seas fleet was being mooted using the new torpedo-carrying Sopwith Cuckoo. The Cuckoo was not available in sufficient numbers until early 1919, and the project was stillborn. The concept was revived during the Second World War and eventually resulted in a successful raid on the Italian port of Taranto in 1940. Of the British pilots, Dixon was awarded the DSO, while Smart received the bat to his previously awarded DSO. Hewlett's body was later recovered from the sea.